continuing coverage of breaking news.
Emergency crews swarming to Lambeau Field this afternoon.
Police say a former game day food service contract employee tried to run down a former co-worker before crashing his vehicle inside the secure loading dock area.
Nobody was injured in this incident. The suspect is in custody.
The latest from Lambeau tops Fox 11 News at 5.
Balanced news and severe weather coverage. This is Fox 11 News at 5.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Police say the suspect had recently been fired following a physical dispute with that coworker.
Police say what played out at the stadium this afternoon was basically over in just a matter of minutes. Fox 11's Ben Krumholtz has been at Lambeau since just after the incident started around 1 o'clock this afternoon. And Ben, the incident's over, but what are you seeing right now?
Tom, emergency crews have left and things are seemingly back to normal for outside of Lambeau Field. A much different scene from what we experienced this afternoon when emergency crews were speeding into the parking lot here. Chief Andrew Smith says the first call came in at 1:06 for an active shooter at Lambeau Field. You can see in our video armed officers descending toward the stadium. Chief Smith says the situation ended up being a former food service employee confronting a former coworker in the stadium's parking lot. The suspect rammed his vehicle into the victim's vehicle, causing it to become mounted on top of other vehicles in the lot. At that point, Smith says the suspect got out of his vehicle and ran into Lambeau's loading dock. Smith says the gate to the loading dock was up, allowing the suspect to drive his vehicle down the loading dock ramp and then up the ramp leading into the bowels of Lambeau. Inside there is where Smith says the suspect crashed his vehicle.
That section of the field is temporarily closed because it's a very large crime scene. Between the place where the vehicles collided and the original assault started and where the vehicle finally came to rest is a rather large area. So that area will be closed for a considerable length of time this afternoon until we conclude our investigation.
Smith says from the time of that original call at 1:06 to the time they got the suspect into custody and the victim safely secured, it was just 6 minutes total. We'll bring you another update from out here coming up in our second half hour, but for now, we're live in Green Bay. Ben Krumholtz, Fox 11 News.
Now, as we've said, the incident ended in the loading dock area on the the southeast corner of the stadium. Take a look at a picture of that area of the stadium. Again, the southeast corner of Lambeau Field. You can see the ramp the suspect's vehicle was able to drive up and enter underneath the stadium. You can still see that car highlighted in this photo. The car has since been removed. Now, on the north end of the stadium, the Pro Shop restaurant area and atrium all remained open. Police say they believe it was an isolated incident on the south side, which played out quickly within less than 10 minutes, so the rest of the stadium was never evacuated. We'll have more on that part of the story in our second half hour.
During the news conference this afternoon, police also talked about the initial dispute between the former co-workers. Fox 11's Alex Rinaldo joins us live outside the Green Bay Police Department now. And Alex, it sounds like the suspect made a visit there earlier today. Is that right?
That's right, Gabrielle. According to Police Chief Andrew Smith, the suspect, about 20 minutes before that incident over at Lambeau, came here to the police department, and we're told the suspect wanted to make some kind of wrongful termination report. However, police are still investigating exactly what he wanted. Let's go ahead and take a look at some video we have of the incident from our Lambeau cam. Chief Smith also told us the suspect was an employee of a contracted food service agency at Lambeau. He was not an employee of the Packers. According to Smith, the suspect was recently fired. The suspect was apparently upset about an incident with another employee that happened earlier this month.
Apparently he was involved in a disturbance on December 3rd with a fellow employee, and that was a physical altercation, and he was ultimately fired from his employment at this food service agency.
Now, Delaware North is the name of the company that provides food service at Lambeau Field. We did reach out to the company and received a short statement saying we're fully cooperating with police in the ongoing investigation. And I just want to note that that December 3rd date, the day of that alleged incident between the suspect and that other employee, that happened on the date of the most recent Packers home game against the Buccaneers. Reporting live in Green Bay, Alex Rinaldo, Fox 11 News.
And people also shared their photos and videos on social media with us, and we are viewing some of them using our Banjo app. Here you can see a police officer directing traffic. Also, this image shows emergency crews on their way to the stadium. Here's another angle of a fire truck. Yeah, we can get that there somewhere. There's the fire truck heading to Lambeau Field. Also, another example of vehicles stopping in the area as first responders head toward Lambeau Field. And a person in the parking lot at Lambeau also taking this video of police surrounding vehicles that had been damaged in that incident this afternoon.
The incident happened just hours after the bowl was filled with volunteers helping to clear away snow. It was the second time this week that shovelers were needed. On Monday, it's estimated that 500 to 600 people volunteered. With the last home game tomorrow, Packers officials explained what happens the next time it snows.
After Saturday, we'll clean the stadium up from the game, and then pretty much everything just goes dormant until next year. And then the snow will just sit in the stands, and the field will just be snow covered.
Now, team and the fans hoping the team doesn't go dormant quite yet. They still have 2 more games to go with Dillon right now, and a rematch with the Vikings. Of course, an important last meeting when they played over in Minneapolis. That was the game Aaron Rodgers was hurt, and there's no playoffs ahead for the Packers, but still hoping professionally to keep things going.
Yeah, Tom, and Randall Cobb said this is really unfamiliar territory for this locker room. Only 3 players remember what it's like not to be in the postseason, so we're not really sure how they're going to react yet, but they still have 2 games to play in 2017. They're professionals, and they want to make them count. That's why you play the football game, right? Well, Green Bay can still finish atop the NFC North at 4-2, and with a winning record for the 9th straight season. Those are impressive marks. Of course, they could also deal a major blow to a Vikings team that delivered the hit on number 12 that essentially crippled their season. With Aaron Rodgers back on the shelf, Brett Hundley will get a second shot at Minnesota tomorrow. The NFC North champs with everything to play for, including home field advantage throughout the playoffs and maybe even, yes, hosting a Super Bowl. Spoilers, not a term the Packers really familiar with, but they're going to get a shot to play one tomorrow night.
We're just trying to win a game. I care less about being a spoiler, whatever, they're playing for. It's just we're just trying to win a game, and that's the name of it.
Every game from now on is then we got Detroit's in it, Minnesota's in it. I think Minnesota's trying to, first round bye they're trying to get. So if we can beat them, it'll be good. But they did hurt Aaron, and we have lost them already, so why not beat them?
And the team talks playing for pride a bit later in sports. And for the players and fans, and for us, it will be extremely cold. Meteorologist Phil DeCastro joins us now. Phil, what can fans expect heading to Lambeau tomorrow?
I wouldn't even say extremely cold, at least not just yet, because we're going to have 2 different types of cold in this forecast. One is certainly chilly, and I would say cold weather expected for the weekend. The next bit of extreme cold, though, could be coming next week. So let's take a look at this weekend. Again, today we dealt with some light flurries. It looks like those are moving out of the area. That's not going to be an issue for tomorrow. So here's what next. We will see a little bit more sunshine, sure, expecting partly cloudy skies, but it will be chillier. Temperatures only going to be reaching about the upper teens for your highs. The wind chills could be in the single digits. And once we get to game time, we're talking about temperatures that could be sinking down into the low to mid teens. So it will be much colder than what we saw today, certainly. But once we get past this weekend, we could be talking about temperatures, high temperatures that struggle to get out from below 0 ranges. Right now in our Lambeau Cam, very little happening. It's still 30 degrees. That colder air hasn't moved in yet. I'll tell you more about the weekend for the forecast this weekend and that colder air next week coming up in a few minutes.
Balanced news and severe weather coverage. This is Fox 11 News at 5.
Welcome back to our second half hour. We're continuing to follow breaking news from Green Bay. All is calm and all is much quieter at Lambeau Field right now. More so than when emergency crews first arrived more than 4 hours ago. Our Lambeau Cam showing us the area near the loading dock on the southeast corner of the stadium, where investigators say a disgruntled former employee of the game day food service provider went after a former co-worker with his vehicle. No one was injured, but the vehicle made it into the secure loading dock area. The suspect, a Green Bay man in his 20s, is now in custody.
Police say it all happened in a matter of minutes and ended with the suspect crashing his vehicle inside Lambeau Field. Fox 11's Ben Krumholtz has on scene for us. He's been there pretty much the entire day and Tell us, Ben, he's now with an update.
Gabrielle, police have left and the scene here is clear from the incident which started out here in the Lambeau Field parking lot and ended beyond the gate that you see behind me. As you can see in our video, police started when they arrived here with guns drawn. They say the incident started when the suspect found his former coworker in the parking lot. That man was inside his own car. Police say the suspect used his vehicle to ram into the victim's car, causing it to become mounted on other cars in the parking lot. From there, police say the victim got out of his vehicle and ran into the loading dock area of Lambeau. Police say the loading dock gate was up at the time, allowing the suspect to drive his own vehicle down the ramp and eventually up into the food service area inside the bowels of Lambeau Field. That's where police say the suspect crashed his vehicle. Chief Andrew Smith says the original call was for an active shooter, causing his officers to spring into action.
From the time the 911 call came out at 1:06 to the time the suspect was in custody was a total of 6 minutes. It went very, very quickly, and we had we had the suspect in custody, and we had a victim safely secured within about 6 minutes.
Police say the suspect was fired from a food service company that contracts with the Packers for game days. That incident, he was fired on the day of the last home game versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on December 3rd. Police say he was fired for getting into a physical confrontation with the man that he was seeking out here in the parking lot today. Live in Green Bay, for Fox 11 News, I'm Ben Krumholz.
And as the situation played out at the south end of Lambeau Field, other portions of the stadium remained open, and that included the Packers Pro Shop. Fox 11's Robert Hornacek joining us now live from the Fox 11 Field House across Lambeau Field north of Lombardi Avenue. And Robert, explain what fans told you about what was going on.
Well, Tom, some of the fans we spoke with didn't even know there was a situation happening in the loading dock area of the stadium because the things inside the stadium pretty much went on as usual. Now, as we've been mentioning throughout the newscast, this incident happened at the loading dock, which is on the south end of the stadium, which is on pretty much the opposite end of the stadium from where all the activity is with fans on a day like today. The Packers Pro Shop remained open throughout the afternoon as fans were picking up some holiday gifts. Fans were outside the stadium taking pictures with statues as they normally would. Tours kept going. The atrium was open. So despite that large police presence in the incident, there was little to no impact on the actual operations of the stadium.
It was just busy and people were everywhere shopping, and if you didn't ask somebody, you wouldn't have known anything was going on outside.
Now, as you can imagine, on a day like today, there are a lot of people who are at Lambeau Field. There are people doing their holiday shopping. There are fans who are in town for the game tomorrow night. So a lot of activity. And again, despite that police presence, things here at the stadium went on pretty much as usual.
We're continuing to follow breaking news from Lambeau Field this evening. We do have an update for you. We're getting our first look at the suspect in this afternoon's disturbance at Lambeau Field. Che Vang has already been booked into the Brown County Jail. He is being held on several recommended charges. To be clear, he has not yet been formally charged. Police say that the incident at Lambeau Field was over in a matter of minutes this afternoon. The initial call was for an active shooter, but that turned out not to be the case. Green Bay's police chief said no shots were fired, no weapon was found. Instead, police say it stemmed from a dispute earlier this month between two co-workers on the day of the most recent Packers game at Lambeau Field. They worked for the game day food service provider at the stadium. Police say the suspect had been fired following that dispute, but they say that he spotted that former co-worker at Lambeau Field today and tried to chase him down with his car. We'll have more coverage online throughout the evening and also later tonight on Fox 11 News at 9 and 10.